Good evening, and welcome back to Sportshire. I'm your host, Griff McClellan, and today I'm joined by guest speaker, Darren Marcy.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. Today's episode is all about reflection. We're going to look back on this past summer of 2019 and reflect on some of the biggest highlights. Let's start by giving a huge shout out to the Women's World Cup.
Yes, those ladies, they deserve all the credit in the world.
It was a phenomenal journey for them. What an amazing tournament they had. One of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, they the early round games, the incredible scores that they were putting up, even got some flack for it. But they put the ball in the net a lot, and they weren't even really challenged till later in the tournament.
Yeah, I think one of their greatest highlights on paper, at least, was their 13-0 rout of Thailand.
Yeah.
I've never seen a score like that ever, and they outshot Thailand 40-2.
There's football teams that don't score that many points. So.
Exactly. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And as you said, they had a rocky road down the stretch. They had a tight semifinal match against England, which they grinded out, and they won, which is all that matters at the end of the day. But then their 2-0 shutout of the Netherlands in the final cemented their legacy.
Yeah, and that's, they finally got into playing some teams that, could challenge them, but they were able to play their game and come out on top. And again, I think that this women's soccer program it's something that we should all be very, very proud of. It's a great thing going on.
Yeah, it was their second consecutive World Cup championship, their fourth overall. And the U.S. men's soccer team hasn't ever won.
That's right.
It's remarkable.
We've got to pay those ladies what they're worth.
Yeah, what a phenomenal inspiration they are to all.
They really are. A lot of young girls running around playing soccer today because of those women that what they've done the past 20 or so years. They've really stepped it up.
Yeah, and it was amazing. The national team received the award at the ESPYs this summer for the best all-around team.
Yeah,
They beat out the Boston Red Sox, Patriots, Raptors, Warriors. Name any other team in any other sports league. This team beat it out.
and they're wearing the red, white, and blue, which that always helps.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Next, I think we should reflect on Wimbledon a little bit. It was one of the more interesting tournaments on both sides for the men's and the women's tournaments. I'd especially like to give a huge shout out to Coco Gauff, a 15-year-old phenom who knocked off the legendary Venus Williams.
Anytime you beat Venus, it's a highlight match, and so Venus isn't maybe quite what she was a few years back, but she's still a force on the court.
She has aged a little bit, but she's still a legend
Right.
and will go down as one of the greatest ever.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it was remarkable that a 15-year-old beat out one of the greatest to ever play the game.
And a highlight for that young girl, and shows what's to come for her. So.
I think the most iconic moment of the tournament was the gentlemen's final between Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer. By far the two best players in the world, and it showed. A 5-set thriller, which came to an abrupt end.
Yeah, you were telling me about this. I don't follow tennis that closely, but those two have been at the top of their game and the game for a while. Watching the highlights of that match, it just kept going, and there were no cheap points, and great final or great finish to that game. But as you were pointing out, the way it ended was disappointing to some people.
Yeah, I would say so. Wimbledon added a new rule this year where in the fifth set, a tiebreaker would come into place if the score reached a tie of 12-12. In the old days, this did not exist. You would just continue playing until someone won by 2 points. The record all time was 70-68.
Wow.
In 2010, I can see why that rule came into place.
Yeah.
Or else it theoretically could go on forever.
Until one of them falls down and can't get back up.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Both of them were fatigued, exhausted, but in the end, it was a great match, and I'm so glad I got to see it.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. We may never see a match like that again. And Roger Federer is not getting any younger,
No,
especially.
he's not. What is he, like 68 now? It seems like he's been playing forever.
Yeah, he has. He's at the top of his game, though. He's phenomenal, fantastic athlete. So much fun to watch.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive into the baseball season. It's been an interesting road, and we'll also look ahead to what the future might hold. I know you're a huge LA Dodgers fan. What do you
right.
think about them this season?
Well, it's what's not to like about the Dodgers this season, or for the last 6 seasons. West champs 6 consecutive times. Problem is they haven't gotten it done in the final game of the year, and hopefully this will be the year. They've been, in my opinion, one of, if not the best team in baseball for the entire summer. Clearly, they have some competition for that. The Yankees, the Astros, not the Red Sox this year. That's for sure. Sorry to rub that into rub the salt in the wound for some of you guys, but the Red Sox just haven't played up to what anybody would expect of them.
Yeah, for sure. And some people would say this season's a disappointment to them, considering that they won 108 games last season and only lost 54. They already have 58 losses this season. But in a sense, they're still alive for the wild card race. And it's almost impossible to repeat as World Series champs these days.
Yeah.
No team has done it successfully since 2000.
Yeah, what's crazy, I think, is that nobody expected them not to be competing for the division title. And I looked up the stats before I came in here. Around the All-Star break, they were within striking distance. I don't remember what the deficit was, but they were only like 5 games back or something like that. I looked it up. They're 16 back now behind the Yankees in the AL East. Yeah, so, I mean, anything's possible, but the way the Yankees are playing, I don't see it this year. So
I agree with you. The Yankees are by far the better team this season, at least. That was not the case last year. The Red Sox were just too dominant. The Yankees have been overshadowed, though. They've been a solid club the last few years, but this year might be their chance to steal the spotlight from Boston.
Yeah, the interesting thing about the Yankees this year compared to past years, injuries and things kept them from overtaking the Red Sox and being the force in the division that they are used to being. But this year, despite having an all-star team on the IL, they've continued to win games, and I don't see how they've done it. I don't. You look at the folks that they've had on the injured list this year. I mean, and it's a who's who of baseball. They've got great pitchers, great players, their best hitters, and I don't know how many dozens and dozens of homers they've sat on the bench this year because of the IL.
Yeah, they can make an entire lineup of injured reserve players.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Good lineup.
A good lineup too. But hopefully that won't. Hopefully they'll get healthier when postseason time comes around. I'm sure they'll be great.
You know, with the hopes that my Dodgers are in the playoffs and potentially meeting the Yankees in the World Series, I hope they don't get healthy. I hope all those sluggers stay on the bench for the year, but we'll see. No, it'd be more fun to beat them at their best. So.
Yeah, and going back to the Dodgers, you're not wrong in a sense that the Dodgers have been one of the best teams over the past 6 or 7 years. They've been so dominant. They've won the NL West, 6 times in a row? This is going to be their 7th consecutive year?
Yeah.
That's insane. But they have no World Series rings to show for it, and that's the difference.
My friends that root for the Giants rub that in on a regular basis. They won't let me forget. They don't. It doesn't matter how many division titles you win. It's the World Series ring that you want. You know, the Giants have a couple of those. The Dodgers have none since '88. So maybe this will be the year.
Maybe the third time is the charm. They're the runner-ups of the past 2 World Series against Houston and Boston.
Yep.
Maybe this year, whoever they face, they'll come out on top.
Yeah,
they very well could.
It'd be nice if they could beat Boston and the Yankees. Sorry, if they could beat Boston and the Astros in the World Series. It's impossible, but it'd be nice to get a little retribution. I think that I'd rather face the Astros and beat them because they broke our hearts 2 years ago.
That's true.
The Red Sox were just flat out a better team last year. They just, the Dodgers couldn't match their skill and at every position and on the mound. But the Astros, they broke. They had that one extra inning game, and that kind of turned the tide, and then the Dodgers didn't recover. So I'd like to beat them maybe.
That Game 5 of the 2017 World Series was one of the greatest I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was.
13-12 Houston. That you just can't predict that.
Spectacular game if you're a Houston fan. Kind of it wasn't so great as a Dodger fan.
It was a great comeback attempt by the Dodgers, though, who trailed 12-9 entering the top of the 9th inning and
Yeah.
forced extra innings.
That whole series was a great series. If the Dodgers had won that, it would be a super great. As it is, it's just a bad memory.
The Dodgers had the best league record that year, and Houston ultimately outplayed them in a series that deserved, by all means, to go to 7 games.
Yeah.
It was one of the greatest I've ever watched, at least. But you're right. In last year's World Series against the Boston Red Sox, they just got outplayed by Boston. Boston was clearly the more dominant team. They were better, and the Dodgers weren't as good in the regular season, perhaps.
Yeah, it's the biggest difference that I saw last year was the Red Sox on the mound, the pitching, especially the relievers. Once you got those guys coming in out of the bullpen, it was game over. The Dodgers just couldn't do anything against their bullpen last year. The Red Sox don't have that bullpen this year. In fact, one of their best relievers last year against the Dodgers is now pitching for the Dodgers, and he's not doing so well. We wish he'd step up his game and pitch more like the postseason last year.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on, but still along the lines of baseball, who, in your opinion, is the biggest surprising team of this season?
Yeah, I know a lot of people, and for very good reason, are going to mention the Mets and Giants resurgence.
They won
all of a
13
sudden.
out of their last 14 games.
Man, the Giants were buried in the bottom of the NL West standings, and they were sellers, a week before the deadline, and then they started winning, and they really haven't stopped yet. They're now tied for second in the division. They're not going to catch the Dodgers. They're like 19 games out.
I don't think anybody will.
But they're But they're absolutely in the playoff hunt for the wild card, and that's amazing. And the same for the Mets. They've done the same thing in the NL East, but there's a team that we've already mentioned them, and I hate to give them credit because I just kind of don't like the Yankees. But how in the world are you the best team or one of the best teams in baseball when you've had all those guys on the injured list this year?
Depth.
Holy moly! Like I say, they've got an all-star game on the bench, an all-star team on the bench, and yet they're still leading arguably one of the best divisions in baseball.
Yeah, the Yankees are clearly the front runner in that division. Tampa Bay had a good start as well, but they're beginning to collapse a little bit. Boston's hung over clearly from last season.
Yeah.
And then you also have Toronto and Baltimore, who are just the laughing stock right now.
Yeah, it's
especially Baltimore.
Yeah, I'd like to root for Baltimore. I'd like to see them do something, but I just don't see them coming around anytime soon.
They were good a few years ago, but that feels like a long time ago now. It feels like 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, I think they had a guy named Ripken playing for him last time I remember him being really good. So.
Yeah, who is that guy? Yeah, they were really good at one time. Like you said, the Mets and Giants are certainly making moves this season, getting back into the wild card hunt. One team we haven't mentioned, however, is the Minnesota Twins. Phenomenal. They made the wild card round 2 years ago, had an off year last year, and again, they just came out of nowhere. And they're not playing under any pressure by any means, but they're phenomenal, and they're leading their division right now.
And that's one of the, you mentioned pressure. That's one of the keys. They're not like the Yankees or Red Sox or the Dodgers who are expected to win. They don't have to go out and win games because of their payroll or fan expectations. They're just up there mashing the baseball and winning baseball games, and that's it's fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. They could make some noise in the playoffs. I don't expect them to go that far because they lack experience, and they'd have to go through perhaps Houston, New York, maybe Boston, who knows. Yeah. But they could potentially make some noise.
Yeah, you never know. That's one of the great things about baseball. You have to step between the lines and play the game, and you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And switching gears now, how about let's look at the biggest disappointments from this season?
Well, I think we've already talked about one of them. That's going to make a lot of New England fans unhappy, but the Red Sox have, they've got to be hanging their heads right now. I think the owners around the All-Star break, somebody was asking them why they didn't make some big moves, and they said, look, we've got a team on the field that should be winning the division. They're just not playing good baseball.
Yeah, on paper, they have so much experience, talent, and depth compared to other teams. It's insane. They should be winning hundreds of games and in the mix for the World Series.
Yeah,
but this year they're just clearly hungover.
There should be another classic Red Sox-Yankees battle where they're both within a game or two of each other, and down to the final week of the season to see who wins the division. That's the way it should be, but the Red Sox just haven't kept up their end of the bargain.
For sure. I think another team that people had mixed reviews about going into the season was the Philadelphia Phillies. After signing free agent Bryce Harper to a 13-year, $330 million contract, which is insane, the Phillies started off pretty well. They're doing all right, but now they've fallen back and are currently in 4th place in their division.
That's an interesting division because there's a bunch of good teams there, and the Cubs, the Phils, the who else?
Mets.
The Mets. Yeah, the Mets now, but
And the Braves, too.
the Braves. Yeah, I mean there's 3 or 4 good teams in that division, but none of them have stepped up and said this is our year. I like the Braves probably best.
At this point, I do.
Yeah, they were there last year, and they don't seem to be letting up. But the Cubs are a good baseball team.
You never count out the Cubs as well.
That's right, and you always have the Cards. So, I mean, it's an interesting division. To me, that's almost a toss-up. There's some good baseball teams in that division, and we'll see who wants to step up and win it.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. The Phillies are still alive in the thick of the wild card hunt, but they just, in terms of how I perceived how their season would go, I had higher expectations for them.
When you spend that much money, especially on one player, and then he goes out and hits 250 or something like that right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's very, very average for the money he's making, and I've never played at that level or been paid that much money, so I have no idea what that pressure's like. But I'd like to see Bryce Harper play to his potential because, like some of the other guys in the league, when he's playing good baseball, it's a fun league to watch. So he can make balls disappear. He did against the Giants the other day. He hit one into the Cove, and
That's right.
Yeah, but it just seems like it seemed like that ball was hit harder and farther than most every other ball I've seen hit there in a while. So I'd like to see him get it going.
Yeah, he's been one of the top players in the MLB for the last 7 years or so.
Yeah.
He's hardly ever gotten to the playoffs and obviously has no championships to show for his success.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Maybe the Phillies sneak in as a wild card. You never know. But I think Atlanta has clearly got that division locked up at the moment.
Yeah, they'd be my pick if we had to make that decision right now. Who was going to go from that division? I think the Braves are the right team.
Yeah, and recently a bunch of old faces swapped into new places for the trade deadline.
Yes.
For example, Trevor Bauer went to the Cincinnati Reds. Yasiel Puig going to the Indians.
Yep.
And Zach Greinke going to the Houston Astros.
Yeah, that's like they needed another pitcher because they didn't have enough number ones in that starting rotation. To me, they had the Astros had the best starting pitching in baseball, and now they add Greinke, who is a legit number 1 on most teams, and he's like a number 3 or 4 there probably. So, that's an interesting move there. A lot of folks have pointed out that his postseason numbers aren't that good, but maybe that's because he played for teams that weren't that good. So
he just came from the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Who have been average.
Yeah. They've been competitive in the NL West, but they haven't been good enough to win the division or to make much noise in the playoffs or anything. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Yasiel Puig, I bet the Dodgers are glad he's no longer on their team. He was just a clubhouse cancer in my view, and clearly they're playing a lot better without him this season.
Yeah, they certainly are not hurting not having him. Here's the thing: I like Puig. He's it's a weird situation. I don't like the showboating mentality. I mean, I don't mind the celebrations and exuberance of when they make a great play, but this flipping the bat 30 feet into the air and still, on a home run in the 3rd inning when you're down by 4 runs, that kind of stuff. And I'm not a big fan of the whole bat licking and all that stuff. But at the same time, this is a young kid. Well, he's not that young anymore. But when he came up, he was a young kid with a lot of passion for the game.
Oh, yeah.
And he played hard, and he played every day. And when he did well, he celebrated. And that rubbed a lot of people wrong. And then, he's one of those guys that when he's on your team, you like him. When he's on the opposing team, you can't stand him.
Exactly.
And so he's that kind of guy. So I still root for him. I'd like to see him play up to his potential. I think this is a guy that he could easily hit 330 homers a year and, fairly consistently. He hasn't done it yet. I mean, I think he's like a career 275, 280 hitter, but the last few years he's only hit like 250 or something. So I don't know. I'd like to see him find a home and do well and contain that attitude just a little bit so fans will appreciate his game and rather than hating him for his actions.
Yeah, he could get the Cleveland Indians over the edge. They're currently trailing the Minnesota Twins, as we mentioned earlier. But who knows? Maybe he plays hero and gets them into the playoffs again.
And he's playing there with some players that I think culturally he might fit in well with. I just went blank on their names all of a sudden. But the shortstop for the Cleveland Indians. Anyway, there's some strong personalities on that team that might be able to control him a little bit.
Perhaps.
Understand him, but also teach him the ways that that's not the way we want to do things because there's a lot of class. And Terry Francona, he won't put up with him. So
Exactly.
He'll rein him in if nothing else.
Yeah. All right. Here's the big question of the day. What is your World Series prediction?
Oh, the Dodgers, of course. But I guess we have to have two
guess I
teams
didn't
in that
have to
World
ask.
Series. Yeah. Man, to me, it's going to be the Dodgers playing either the Yankees or Houston. I'm not sure. I think Houston is the overall better team. If Houston's starting pitching pitches to their potential, they'll beat anybody they play because pitching usually shuts down bats. The Yankees don't have the consistent starting pitching. They haven't really found that top two or three guys you need in the playoffs. So I'm going to say it's the Houston Astros and the Dodgers, and I hope it's the Dodgers. I hope it's a great 7-game series, although my heart won't be able to take it, but it'll be fun.
I agree with you 100%. The Dodgers are by far the best team to watch out for. I think they will claim their third straight NL pennant. In the AL, I also have to go with the Houston Astros. As we said, they were the 2017 World Series champs by beating the Dodgers. I do think it would go 7 games again. This time, however, the third time is the charm for LA.
Yes.
I'm going with Dodgers in 7.
That's right. I like it. I'm rooting for you. And I got to tell you, I think your dad told me a long time ago that was your pick. Right? Maybe even before the first pitch was thrown this season. So,
Yes, that was my initial preseason spring training pick.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sticking with it. I just think clearly on paper these teams are loaded with experience, talent, depth, pitching, whatever you want to look at. They've got it all, and it makes for one great epic final. So
I would love to see it. I'm a fan of parity. I love to see all the teams, have quality clubs that can compete. But I agree with you. I think those are the two teams that are stacked and ready to win this year, and we'll see.
Yeah, the only thing that denied Houston last year were the Red Sox.
Yeah.
But that's not going to be a factor this year, most likely. So I think Houston, they'd have a tough road getting past the Yankees, but I think they could do it easily. I think it would set up a great rematch with the Dodgers.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be the Astros pitching against the Dodgers bats. I mean, there's a lot of power in that Dodger lineup, and that would be fun to watch that again.
Yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to the postseason. I think it'll be exciting. We'll have to wait and see who comes out on top.
Yep, I'll be there.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah. All right, well, that's going to wrap up for today. Thank you for watching Sportshire. We'll see you next time.